Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pirate Radio. Hopefully, I have once and for all fixed the audio on this damn thing. Um, we'll see. Today is a weird day. Today is a tough day nationally. Today is this week. It's been a very interesting week. We're gonna tackle a very tough subject here. It's gonna go very interestingly, and we're going to find out who bans me and who doesn't ban me for what we're about to talk about. It's a very somber subject, at least the way we're going to start off. If you haven't heard, how do you even describe the lost soul that went into that school and killed two kids, injured, shot like 14 others. Can't remember how many. Um, I don't really want to get into the minutia of exactly what went on, person's name, although that might come up, and that might be one of the things that gets me banned from certain platforms, but that's fine because I have opinions. They're typically based in truth, and they are my opinions, although they're generally correct. You're wrong if you don't agree. But we had another trans person shoot up a school. Um, Not really sure where to begin because that is the story, but that's not the story I'm going to talk about. The story I'm going to talk about is the reaction to that story and that horrific act. I don't care what the person's name was. I don't care what that person wanted to be called now. Uh, we can call them dead because they are dead. Um, there is this, for some reason, you saw this with the Nashville shooter as well. There's this, I guess, reaction, equal and opposite reaction, if you buy into the whole Isaac Newton thing. From the right, who becomes authoritarian almost overnight, almost within minutes. Basically, after they're done saying their prayers, which the left doesn't want you to say, they become very reactionary and very authoritarian and very anti gun overnight. So, almost immediately, it's not even overnight. Some have the decency to not stand on the ever cooling bodies of dead kids for a political agenda, but some don't. So some feel the need to react to the other side, if you will. So you have this duality that's happening, this battle between the left and the right, which is on the left, they want to ban assault weapons, assault rifles, whatever that is, military style weapons. They still can't really define what that means, but they want to trans your kids, and also they want you to be able to have an abortion basically on demand. And then the right's reaction to when something like this happens is, you know what? We do need some sort of gun control that will stop this. I'm going to try to stay somewhat out of the political realm, but we are going to start with a couple of politicians just because their nonsense was just so awful. So the first one is Senator Roland Gutierrez. He's a representative of Texas who, that might be the wrong slide. Let's see here. Anyway, Senator Roland Gutierrez from Texas wanted to go on and talk about how he was ashamed and shocked by the violence that was perpetuated by an assault weapon on school kids, and they didn't be able to stay safe in their schools, which is actually true. But then these are a couple of tweets from Senator Roland Gutierrez talking about abortion bans and women's constitutional right to reproductive health care, which just means abortion. So he is pro abortion. He's not pro choice, he's pro abortion. Now, kids, what happens? Probably a bad pun, but we're going with it. What happens during an abortion? What does that mean? Does anyone want to inform the senator, assuming he's bright enough to even know what you're talking about, what happens when someone performs an abortion? That's not a full grown human in there. That would be something referred to as a child or a kid. You know, maybe we can get, and I know I've said this before, but it's been a while since I said this. Maybe we can get vile humans like Senator Gutierrez from Texas, by the way. Maybe we can get them on board with being anti-abortion if we just like made a law that said to perform an abortion you have to use an AR-15 or some other quote-unquote weapon of war, whatever that means. Do you think he would be against it then? Or do you think it would put him in some like sort of weird conundrum where he like if he had a brain his head would just kind of explode because he can't really conceive of this thing? But that guy's an idiot. We're going to move on to the Attorney General of, I believe, New Jersey, who decided to tweet this, post this, tweet this, whatever. Elon, you got to fix that, man. We're going to roll a tweet. This was his reaction to what happened. So he wanted to say that school shootings are why I went into public service. Decades later, another school year begins with carnage. In New Jersey, we've got gun violence to record lows, and yet we continue to fight the gun lobby who thinks everyone has a right to own a weapon of war. Make it make sense. Okay, you want it to make sense, Mr. AG? Well, can you make this make sense, Mr. AG? Let me share the screen. Well, Mr. Attorney General, the right to abortion has been under attack. This is a tweet from same Attorney General Matt Platkin of New Jersey from January 22nd, 2025. The right to abortion, no right to abortion, by the way, has been under attack since Roe v. Wade was decided 52 years ago today. The cost of these attacks to the dignity, autonomy, and lives of people across the U.S. has never been higher, but New Jersey won't back down. Abortion is your right here, and I'll always defend it. I'm not going to play the video of this vile human. Just suffice it to say that he's an idiot. So he's only four dead. So he is four dead kids, so long as it's done under the supervision of a medical official, apparently. Unless they have an AR-15. Now, how do you reconcile that, Attorney General? Maybe it'd be okay if it was a Glock. I don't know. He's kind of an idiot. But now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. And I'll start a little smaller. I don't know who this person is. I just saw their tweets, saw that had a lot of mutuals. It's possible this is a troll, so we'll put that little asterisk there. But this is some account, namely Greater. I don't know what that means. Shows a picture of the thing that decided to shoot up the school and wrote on its magazine for the children is a very odd, very weird, very demented person that would do such a thing. So the tweet, for those of you who are listening, says, I know this is developing, but if true, I think the Trump NIMH/NIH should take measures to coerce the APA, which I'm going to assume is the American Psychiatric Academy or whatever, into classifying transgenderism as a mental disorder again in the DSM. And DOJ should use the 4473 NICS system, which is the form you have to unconstitutionally fill out to purchase a firearm, system to deny firearm sales to them. We don't have to live this way. Don't know his political persuasions, but he goes on to tweet this in the same day. Every single Democrat runs on gun control. The idea that we can't stop insane people from taking possession of firearms at FFLs because someday a Democrat, quote unquote, might try to ban all AR-15s doesn't hold any weight because they already do this routinely and have done it for decades. Yeah, that's kind of the fucking point, Lee, if you don't understand. But I digress. So we're going to hit one of the titans of the right-wing conservative movement. A guy that I do actually like and feel like I am kind of a kindred spirit of, one Matt Walsh. Every trans person, this is a Matt Walsh tweet from August 22nd, 2025. Every trans person is dangerously delusional. Okay? Not wrong. They are all mentally sick, and doctors should be legally barred from affirming their mental illness in any way, adult or child. Everyone knows it. Now, innocent children are dying because so many people were too cowardly to speak up. Okay, so you see the calls to authoritarianism and the calls to government should do more by quote unquote the conservatives. It doesn't take a whole lot. These are just a few examples. Every politician was what Matt Walsh is saying. Is it any different than what the AG of New Jersey and Senator Gutierrez from Texas are saying? In essence, it's not. It's take the power of the federal government, wield it with an almighty fist, and put it on all of the states that tells them what they have to do, whether that's your own body or an inanimate object like the one sitting over my right shoulder right now. None of those things behind me has harmed me in any way, shape, or form. None of them are able to do anything without me taking hold of those. This gets into the Nashville shooter issue from back in the day, which is a year or two ago. I forget exactly when all of a sudden everyone on the right was unanimous in saying that anyone who considered themselves to be of the opposite sex should instantly have all of their firearms seized by the United States government and held until further action could be taken. I'll give you one other example. Fox News. Here, I forget his name, but we will listen to what he had to say.
Have had a gun. I know very staunch Second Amendment advocates who totally agree with red flag laws. Crazy people should not have guns, period, end of story. Your right to a gun is not universal, just like even the First Amendment are literally the foundation of our nation's Constitution. It's not sacrosanct. There are limits on it. And if you trip a red flag law, you don't get the gun, period, end of story. And that's something that also needs to be muscularized. And I say that as a believer in the Second Amendment.
Now, does that sound like a believer in the Second Amendment to you? It needs to be muscularized. Red flag laws basically seize the weapons of the crazy people. Well, here's the problem. Who determines who's crazy? If we go back to Lee's tweet talking about the DSM, okay, well, who comes up with the DSM? And the American Psychiatry Association, or the APA, whatever that exactly stands for, I don't really give a damn because they're a bunch of kooks. Do we need to go back to COVID? And let's talk about, I don't know, safe and effective when all the doctors were telling us that? Do you want to kill grandma? The 6-foot rule? You better wear a mask because I'm wearing a mask, but if you don't wear a mask, then how am I going to be protected? You know, it's a very... Am I insane? Am I the only one that can see the slippery slope, that understands what this means? That when you start enacting these things, you know, it's only going to be used against you. Politics and the presidency is nothing more than a one loaded pistol on the table and two people. And whoever holds the pistol holds all the power. It's pretty simple to understand, right? Why is it that the second something like this happens, you have people from the right, because it's someone that they openly despise, a movement that they openly despise and see as fake, and I can kind of agree with some of that, that now they're on board for seizing your weapons, my weapons, anyone else's weapons, the second that we step out of line and get something that's called crazy. So if we're going to define what mental illness is today under Donald J. Trump and his second administration, what happens when the shoe is on the other foot? I mean, it wasn't too long ago that you were thought as a crazy person if you didn't wear a mask, or that you were a crazy person if you were a part of the NRA, or if you have more than one firearm or more than one AR. Maybe if you have any AR, why do you need more than one firearm? What are you plotting? What are you trying to do? It seems like there's a screw loose with you. Maybe we should go seize his fucking guns. He's probably plotting something if he has 1,000 rounds of ammunition, which for anyone who shoots ammunition at all is really into it. 1,000 rounds of ammunition is just like a fucking Tuesday. Not a big deal. 1,000 rounds of ammo for an avid shooter, especially someone in competition, That's nothing. Nothing. You go through that, not a, it's amazing how fast you actually go through 1,000 rounds of ammunition. It's kind of depressing, actually, but not as depressing as it is on your bank account, but it's very depressing nevertheless. So who's going to set the parameters? Is it going to be the almighty government? By the way, same governments out there. Gavin Newsom's probably going to run for president. Will he win? Don't know. Crazier things have happened. Joe Biden, dead at the wheel. If Gavin Newsom wins the presidency, California has a law right now that it is a transgender sanctuary state. My buddy Joey and I and Sam, we held a podcast here, second or third one I ever did, where we talked about just that. My buddy Joey was in California and talked about the law that basically if someone who is suffering from not understanding that what body they were born in, if they make it to California, they can be trans without telling the parents whatsoever. So what if that guy takes over? He's going to tell you that you're crazy if you don't believe that trans is a thing, that people born into a female body can't be a man because they were born into a female body, so they can't obviously be a man. So then we're going to have all kinds of fun stuff to deal with. And the fact that neither side can really seem to get along with each other, and there's no reaching across the aisle like someone like Reagan was able to do back in the day, and even I think Clinton, once he modernized at a certain extent, there's no common ground with currently. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. There is no common ground whatsoever with people who want to disarm you and take away a right. There's not. You just heard the former New York Police Department, whatever person, talk about he's a staunch advocate of the Second Amendment, but how many times have we heard that? So as vehemently as I am against the whole transgender nonsense and the movement and the I have to affirm you or else it's not affirmed, so which is always a funny one to play, that if you don't call me by my pronouns, you're hurting me, and it's well, I guess then I'm hurting you. I don't really care. There's that, stop it. So because this thing happens, we have to do this other thing. It's almost like no one learned anything from post 9/11 and the Patriot Act. You learned fucking zero. Maybe you went backwards. I don't know. Potentially you did learn nothing from 9/11 and the Patriot Act, because so many of you who are listening to this now and who will listen to this in the future, hopefully, and so many of you that follow a guy like Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or any of the quote-unquote conservatives that are out there, were all for blowing up Iran. And when the phrase regime change came up, you guys were like, well, I don't know, maybe, why not? Let's just do it. Yeah, let's do that again. How'd that work out? How's Iraq working? Good, better, worse? How'd Afghanistan work out? Good, better, worse? Is it going great? We doing good? Nobody learned the lesson. None of you. It's the same. They use the same fucking rhetoric. That's the craziest part. They didn't even really change it at all. It was the same rhetoric. God damn. It's just disappointing sometimes, the way that this goes. I made a few notes here because I was in, I think, the 8th grade when Columbine kicked off. And everybody remembers that Columbine was the first school shooting, which wasn't. There was 2 or 3 before it. But Columbine was the one that really caught the imagination, the attention of the nation. How could it not, right? But if you remember post-Columbine, the reason that those 2 nutters went and did what they did was because of Marilyn Manson, possibly Eminem, video games, violent movies. God, what was the one movie? Natural Born Killers, somehow, even though that was kind of like a crazed love story, somehow that inspired these two males who were not gay to shoot up a school. But those were some of the reasons that these kids did this. And then that's when you got the warning labels on video games of E for everyone or PG or R, whatever it is. No one paid attention to them. It's like co-parenting by the federal government or something like that. I don't even know. But there's so much of this that's like it's so disappointing to see people that you kind of respect, or maybe you do respect, that come out and say, we need we need to not let these people are mentally ill. They can't have a gun. Okay, well, who's going to define the mentally ill yet again? Because I don't know. Are you a psychologist? Are you are you you can write the DSM, but someone has to interpret the DSM and what that means in the guidelines. And who's going to do that? It's going to be a psychiatrist, right? It's going to be some sort of mental health professional. Okay, what do you do when you walk in and the mental health professional has blue hair and a nose ring? Do you think you're going to get a fair shake? Probably not. Why is it that I see so many people that wants to put their yes, he did, and that's exactly where I got it from, B. Exactly where I got it from. I mean, you people disappoint me. You really disappoint me. Because one of my tweets I put out yesterday is there's no law or laws that is going to prevent some nutter from shooting up a school or shooting someone or killing someone else. The only thing that's going to prevent school shootings are moral men skilled in violence. That's the only thing that's going to do it. Do you guys ever ask yourself why the weak armed with the gun go to the place where you're not allowed to have a gun legally? Does this never cross your mind? We have a whole bunch of laws already. We have background checks. We have all of these things. It doesn't prevent murders. It doesn't prevent school shootings. But if we just add one more to exclude crazy people or mentally ill, whatever that means, we'll all be safe and living in a utopia. Is that right? Because I don't think that's right. It's really not that wild of a stretch of the imagination to think that if mentally ill, crazy, however you want to define it, is then going to mean a bunch of people getting together in a random field in Indiana who have posted things that are slightly anti-government or maybe fully anti-government, who then sit by a fire, eat, drink, and are being merry, all while shooting guns during the day. If you don't think that they're going to classify that as us being crazy, you're fucking crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy. And you should never be listened to. You should never be close to any sort of power. And anyone that is championing that right now, God help you. Because you're just as crazy as that person that went up and shot up that school. You really are. If you believe that, one more law is going to save everyone, if you think the answer is a federal government intervention with words on paper, you have hit your goddamned head. The only thing that's going to stop this is moral men skilled in violence. Whether it's one or two, maybe it's three, I don't know. But that's the only thing that's going to stop it. The power of God didn't stop it. Maybe it was God's will. I don't know. I'm not that guy. I'm not the one to make that judgment. But these things will continue to happen. School shootings are not going away, guys. I'm sorry. It's just the reality. It's just like gang violence is not going away. You can try to make them few and far between. That's about all you can really do with the current situation until we decide, instead of talking about we need one more gun law that excludes quote unquote crazy people with mental illness, we need to instead pressure the federal government and state governments to employ moral men skilled in violence to stand watch at schools and meet with any threat. Maybe it's just enough to know that if I'm a crazed nutter and I know that down at the local school is a moral man skilled in violence, maybe I'm not going down there to try to make my point in my insane transgender swan song. Maybe I'll pick a different place. Maybe I'll risk it in a public square. I don't know. But that's the only way we're going to cure this thing, to stop this thing. You're never going to cure it, ever, ever. It just suddenly dawned on me too that this happened in Minnesota, which was the epicenter, the ground zero of the defund the police movement. Now, these things could be completely separate. It could have been a totally different jurisdiction who didn't believe in that. But it strikes me that that's the epicenter of the defund the police movement. This is where St. George Floyd was put down on that concrete cross by the evil police. Has it gotten better with George Floyd Squared? Have you walked through that son of a bitch? Is that a good thing? Really doing good, Minnesota. Hey, Tim Walz, how's this working out for you, buddy? You just had political hits that happened, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, whatever it was. You had political hits. Now you've got school shooters. You've got Somalis overrunning neighborhoods. You've got another Somali who's apparently going to be the mayor of, I believe, Minneapolis. The dude's head's so big, he looks like some alien experiment gone wrong. Maybe he is. The dude's all teeth and forehead. He's got a 6 head. It's fucking nuts. But how is this working out, guys? Is this working out well? Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't listen to anyone from Minnesota. Or at least, I don't know. Let's just take a pause with Minnesota. I don't know what's going on. I don't really want to know what's going on. I just want you to stay there. There's a whole lot of talk about Canada being the 51st state. How about we go down to 49 and Canada going to have Minnesota? I don't know. Seems like an idea. There's one guy going to get pissed off if he hears this, but who cares? I'm just so frustrated with the reactionary movement of a trans person. And how does this exactly, is this going to work? Because let's say you implement this on the 4473 and an FFL check and a NICS check. I mean, do you think that these people are going to go? First of all, how do we know that this person ever went to any sort of mental health professional? How do we know? Because if you never go to the mental health professional, then you're never going to check the box on the 4473. And how would you know if you went to a mental health professional? Are they going to have online records? Is Palantir getting involved in now your psychiatry records or psychiatrist records, whatever that means, your mental health records? Is that going in there now? Is that part of it? Everybody got so pissed off at Hunter Biden whenever he didn't check the box for being a crackhead or being an addict. Well, you didn't know if he was an addict at that time or right then and there. Define addiction. Define addiction. Go ahead. Everybody, think in your head, how do you define addiction? What would you call an addict? Because they do drugs? Because you can do drugs and maintain them. Plenty of fucking potheads in the world that go to work, are able to work, do a good job, come home, smoke it up, rinse and repeat. Fuck, I knew guys that could hang drywall higher than a kite. They're pretty good at it too. Hell, I knew a roofer that roofed up on a roof. Roof. High. I used to joke that's how I got up there. But define addiction. Can you even define addiction in your head? Everybody watching or listening to this knows an addict, or at least adjacently knows an addict of some sort, drug, alcohol, pills, whatever it is. Everybody knows an addict. Hell, there's not caffeine addicts. That's bullshit. But there are nicotine addicts, like cigarette addicts. Okay. Define addiction. Define it. If you can't define addiction, which every one of us has come into contact with someone with an actual addiction, like drugs or alcohol or something like that. If you can't define that, how do you define mental illness? And on top of that, it's just a box that you check on a 4473. You don't have to piss. You don't have to pee and pass at all. So how is this supposed to work? Lee, Grader, whatever. idiot. How is this supposed to work on a 4473 on a NICS check? Are you a trans? And you're like, no. Oh, look, I circumvented the system. Fucking moron. Do you? It gets even deeper than that. First of all, you can steal a weapon. There's that. Second of all, is this going to affect the parents too of said nutter? Like now they're not allowed to have a firearm? They might need one for the nutter that lives in their house, who might pick up a knife one day and come at them and they have to bang bang. You ever think about that? Then there's also the other part of like, okay, what do you do with these insane people who think they need to cut their dicks off? They are still human. What are you supposed to do? Or are you the same people that have no issue with what's going on in Gaza right now? Like zero, even to this point. Probably. Ooh, wait. Okay, hold on. Hold on. We could send them, like deport them to Gaza. It's just a thought. It's a thought experiment. Just like the 4473 is a thought experiment. You know, it is what it is. We're thinking out loud here. That's the thing. This is the thinking out loud portion of the show because I've run out of my talking points, if I'm being honest. What do you do, Matt Walsh? What is your plan for these people? Do you have a plan? Let's go back to old Matty Walsh and see what he said again. Every trans person is dangerously delusional. Okay? If we dissect his wording here, dangerously delusional. Now, they don't necessarily have to be out like physically dangerous, but it could be dangerous in other ways. So it could be like mentally dangerous to the people around them. But based on the timing, we could probably infer that he was talking about physical violence, true actual violence. But I'm not going to put words into his mouth. He is more than capable of speaking on end about things. But they are all mentally sick, and doctors should be legally barred from affirming their mental illness in any way. Unless the check clears. Like, if we're talking about adults who have means and who also have ability, thoughts, can sign contracts, things that, maybe this is a bigger debate of what we consider an adult at this point. Because at 18 years old, are you an adult? I don't think so. I don't think I was really an adult at 18. And I think that age range is getting older and older of what we should consider an adult. Apparently, I had forgotten about this, but you can't even buy tobacco until you're 21 now. I don't know if that's a state thing here in Oklahoma or if that's a national thing. So now you can't even buy a pack of smokes at 21, or a cigar, or Zins, or whatever the new pouch thing is. Alp. Tucker's on Alp. He's an Alp fiend. So you can't even do that. But you could vote, but you can't buy a pack of smokes. Like you're incapable of understanding the consequences of smoking a cigarette, cigar, or nicotine of any sort. But you're able to determine the consequences of voting for someone like Kamala Harris. Go fucking figure. So if you want to have a debate about what we consider an adult, we can do that. I'm more than welcome. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 at this point. But I digress. Back to this. Adult or child? Okay, so let's go back. They are mentally sick and doctors should be legally barred from affirming their mental illness in any way, adult or child. Everyone knows. Everyone knows it. Now, innocent children are dying because so many people were too cowardly to speak up. Okay. Here we go. going to defend something I don't agree with, nor would I ever engage with, yet again. And that is, you have free will. Matt Walsh, Mr. Religion himself, would tell you that you have free will given to you by God to choose what you want to do with your life or not to do. Someone who is trans has free will to either go through with that operation or not, or some variation of. They have their own free will as a human being to choose those things. Now, if your argument is that they are not truly that it's some sort of mental illness, then didn't God also do that? Or is mental illness a free will issue? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just speaking out loud. But if we're going to talk about free will in the image of God, then you, Matt Walsh, are commanded to love humans because they are created in the image of God. So, what you're implying here, and it is an implication, you're not outwardly saying it, I don't know what you're supposed to do. Because if you think that not going forward with the surgeries or the social transition is going to stop the mental illness, I don't think that's the right plan. I don't think that just because I don't give the heroin addict heroin, that he won't find heroin on his own. Do you see what I'm saying here? Like, the addiction continues to go until the person decides the addiction. You have two choices. You can decide, I am going to conquer my addiction and quit, or you're going to one day just die from it, either by overdose or just you running your body so completely ragged or destroying your heart, or some variation of that. I think mental illness is probably a little worse than that because you don't actually really know what's going on, what's real, what's up, what's down in some variation of that. So, what exactly do you propose here? If we take Walsh's tweet here, what exactly are we supposed to do? We're just going to put them all in jail? Seems illegal for someone exercising their free will. And also, it seems quite costly, although no conservative on planet Earth since, like, I don't know, Barry fucking Goldwater has ever had any problem with spending more money as a country and expanding the government. So it brings me back yet again to what are we conserving here? You're not conserving gun rights. You're, as far as I can tell, you're anti-Second Amendment. Most of you, maybe not Matt Walsh directly in that, but there's an implication there that that's what he's calling for. Because no one did anything because they were too cowardly. Again, what are you conserving? I don't get it. No one can answer that question. They just resort back to some kind of rhetorical Reaganisms or something, and small government and fiscal conservative and blah 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 blah. It's all just nonsense and bullshit. You go on repeat. Maybe that's why the Iran propaganda worked on you as well, because you just go on repeat and it's like, well, we got to fight them there so we don't fight them here, or we don't fight them at all. There's always that. Like it's not our fight, maybe. I don't know. I'm very angry at some of you. You disappoint me. And now we got the mother. No word out of the father yet. Not a shock there. At least as far as I know. So we got the mother of this thing, who apparently signed a form of some sort to change a name, or I don't know. By the way, can we bring back the terms pre-op and post-op? Is that I'm sorry. I just need clarification on where we're at in our journey of affirmation. You know, I'm more of a details guy. I just like to know. I don't know. But, so we've got the mother now. What do you do with the mother? What do you do with the mother? I kind of feel bad for her, to a certain extent. Or what is she supposed to do? Remember, this is where some of the most insane liberal ideas not only came from in Minnesota, but you know that those other crazy liberal ideas are entrenched by and large up there. So if you expect a white liberal woman to tell her son daughter that you're not trapped in the wrong body, God made you in his image, you're barking up the wrong tree, so I don't know what we do. What do you do? Does the mother go to prison for doing what exactly? Time will tell if there's some sort of signs that should have been there or whatever. But according to Matt Walsh, I mean, the signs were instantly right there. Whatever that means, even though there's plenty of trans people who've never shot anyone, plan on never shooting anyone, and may not even own firearms. So there's that. Again, I don't understand what we're supposed to do here. What's the prescription for this problem, for this illness? Maybe we should like bomb another country. I am dead sure had we actually gone to war with Iran, this would have never happened. That's it. I've cracked it. That's what we should have done. Damn it. Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh were right. Iran's got to go. If we would have just overthrown the Ayatollahs or the Ayatollah in Iran, this tragedy would have never happened. Ever. Or some other dumb shit. I'm not really quite sure. I don't know. Maybe if we sell more weapons to the Ukraine, this wouldn't have happened. I don't know. Has anyone been able to, in their head, define what addiction is and what that means and what that looks like? Like put a real label to it? No? Is it just like I'll know it when I see it kind of thing? I don't know. That's a good comment. It's Pete's fault for banning trans from the military. Robin could have been drafted to Iran. Well, there you go. See, now we're solving fucking problems. That is a problem solved. Well, would have been. I mean, what better place for some dainty mentally ill trans than the sands of whatever fucking mountain range goes for that. Have you defined addiction? No? What's mental illness? What's that mean? What's that mean, Hal? Nothing? Great. So what are we doing? Are we serious about stopping this? Are we serious about, making this go away, making this not be a thing? Or are we just going to like placate everyone in the bleeding hearts and the oh my stars and we're just going to put something on a forum that every time I have to go buy one of these, I got to check, no, I'm not a fucking trans. Can't you see? Go fuck yourself. No, I'm not addicted to anything. No, I'm not a criminal. No, I'm not a fugitive from justice. No, I'm not Mexican. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like the TSA. The same people that thought, ooh, the TSA, we're going to be safe now. And then some guy had a pair of shoes on, and had he got that match lit, now we all got to take our damn shoes off now. Ooh, see, the TSA kept us safe. Does it? Y'all retarded. You think the TSA makes you safer? No. 9/11 made you safer. That's what made you safer. It's all just a joke. Please just govern me harder. How has this ever worked before throughout history? Like, if you just want a strong man to come in and just iron fist it all, Jesse Kelly has mentioned this numerous times where he's so ready for an iron fisted, come in and just clear out the commies. Like, I'm all for it. That's another thing. Oh, I'm going to go off on a tangent that has something to do with this, but not really. Do you guys ever wonder why you get these people on the right. Ben Shapiro is definitely one of these. He's like the new wave generation of it. But Ben Shapiro is interesting in a way that I'll get to Ben Shapiro. If you guys ever wonder why you get these people on the right who have all of these supposedly conservative ideas and ideals, yet when you really start to scratch the surface, you get some like kind of communist socialist leanings. And you have to look really hard to see it, and a lot of times it's just a hindsight thing. But it's always like, if you think about George W. Bush, and his whole regime, his whole cabinet, everybody at the highest levels, they were all neocons or neocon light. They were all like hardcore Republicans and this, that, and the other. And, you know, we're all Republicans and we believe these Republican things and conservative and blah, blah, blah. But everything revolved around the state having control. Everything. Everything. Trump does this too. Even Reagan did this. Reagan wasn't a neocon, but he was influenced by neocons. Have you ever wondered why that is? Is it because they believe, as every Barry Goldwater conservative believes that the state, you know, Barry Goldwater, same guy that voted against the Civil Rights Bill, because it would give the state more power. Everyone supposedly believes in what Barry Goldwater, the first, you know, the champion of the original conservative movement, they believe in the same thing that he does, yet they keep growing the state constantly. You ever wonder why that is? Well, in the little bit of research that I've been doing and reading and writing and all of the different things, you come to find out, and I had heard this before, but that it's, you got to go and try to verify it and come up with different sources that, you know, corroborate what you're hearing and what you're reading and other things, is that truly the neocon movement and the neocons themselves who infiltrated the conservative movement are nothing but Trotskyites who were all leftists back in the day. They were all communist, socialist retards. And now here they are, infiltrated the conservative movement and are now running the whole thing. And then you get guys like Ben Shapiro, who allegedly, as far as I can tell, has always been conservative, at least in his adult life and through most of his life, who now come in and buy into the same thing. Maybe it's a little neocon light, but you're still in on the thing. But his whole thing is through Israel and through hardcore Judaism, which is the other thing that ties in the neocons into the whole Israel and the whole Israel part, is because when you look back at Israel, they were basically socialist, communist Trotskyites themselves. So that's where it gets tied in. And that's why you get all of these people who are supposedly hardcore right-leaning Republicans always wanting to take the power of the state and cram it down upon the people of the individual 50 states. So that's where these guys line up. So there is no true conservative in any sort of government that I can see. That's why you get guys like Thomas Massie who run as a Republican, mainly because it's the only way to win, but also I don't think I've ever heard Thomas Massie call himself a conservative. He may have, but I doubt it. He just runs and stands on principle. He just happened to have an R next to his name because that was probably the closest party to what he believed in this one where he could get elected. There probably wasn't, well, I don't know. It's a toss-up. Do you want to call yourself a Republican or a Libertarian at this point? But it's just like Ron Paul, Rand Paul. It's the same thing. Those guys are not neocons. They are, you know, the freedom-loving Americans and Republicans, you know. They're like the Goldwater Republicans and conservatives. But that movement's been so hijacked, no one with half a brain would call themselves that. So it's a very interesting dichotomy or a relationship there between the two. So that's how you end up with a government that is basically wings of the same bird. It's left and right. You end up at the same, you're attached to the same thing. So it's the same thing. This is one of those red pill moments, guys, that when you find this out, when you understand that the neocons who've infiltrated the conservative movement are nothing but the ex-Trotskyites, and now their kids and their kids' kids that have come into it. It's the shit you can't unsee. Once you've seen it, once you've taken the red pill, it's all over. And now you start seeing it everywhere. And then it all starts to kind of make a little bit of sense. Again, just because X is correct doesn't mean that Y is correct. You still have to do some research and verify with different sources of what you're actually buying into and what you're actually seeing. But once you see it, you can't unsee the shit. Now, what does this have to do with this crazed, I think, pre-op nutter who shot some kids? Basically nothing other than you get the gridlock of, or no, you don't get the gridlock. You're going to start seeing, and I hope I'm wrong, but rarely does that happen. What you're going to start seeing is you're going to start seeing the neocons are going to show themselves without realizing they're showing themselves. And the neocon lights, if you will, are going to show themselves because they're going to start talking about gun control and they're going to start talking about red flag laws. Now, they might not talk about it on the national stage. They might bring it back to their states, but it's going to happen. And you're going to get this. It wouldn't shock me if you got it on a national stage because there's not a whole lot going on right now to distract nationally. It's kind of a malaise there. So you're going to get some of that probably happening on a national level. Will it have any traction? I don't know. Because you have guys like Massey and some of the others in his orbit that are holding pretty strong on some things. And they have been able to make some progress within Congress and the Senate. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong there. But I digress. So, that all being said, I think that's all I had on this show for now. But what the hell is that? Sorry, I had to check a phone. I think let's see. Why don't we do a Yeah, I'm going to start a space on X. So, if you don't follow me on X, you certainly should be. Most of you do follow me on X. But if you don't follow me on X, go ahead and follow me on X. I'm going to start doing these spaces more often for the show. So, if you want to join me over there, feel free. You're all welcome. But until next time, everybody, thanks for joining me. Do this every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Central. Also goes out on the Spotify's and Apple Podcasts and all of that. Usually on Saturday after, but thanks for joining me. See you next time.